In a city marked by chaos and disillusionment, there lived a man named Lucas. His life was a reflection of wrong choices, surrounded by the shadows of a dark past. From a young age, he became involved in illegal activities that distanced him from family and friends, leaving him lonely and lost. Lucas had been a criminal, and his reputation followed him like a shadow, but deep in his heart, there was a burning desire for redemption, even if he didn't know how to achieve it. One night, while wandering the streets, Lucas heard a murmuring in a square. Intrigued, he approached and saw a preacher standing, surrounded by a small crowd. The man spoke with passion, his words resonating in the hearts of the listeners. He shared stories of hope, love, and forgiveness, discussing God's ability to transform lives. Lucas stopped, listening attentively, and an unexpected hope began to blossom within him. The preacher's words penetrated his soul, igniting a light he thought had been extinguished. The preacher, named Daniel, told stories of transformation and redemption. He spoke about how God loves every person, regardless of their mistakes, and that there is always a way back. Lucas felt drawn to these messages. The desire to change burned in his chest, but the fear of facing his past held him back. He lingered for a while, struggling with his own shame, wishing life could be different. After the sermon, Lucas hesitated but finally approached Daniel. With a lump in his throat, he confessed, "I am not worthy of forgiveness. I have done terrible things." Daniel looked at him with compassion, a gaze that overflowed with love and understanding. "God's grace is greater than any mistake. You can be forgiven and have a new life," he replied, and those words touched the depths of Lucas's soul. He felt that perhaps he could believe that. In the following days, Lucas began attending the meetings led by Daniel. He listened intently to the messages about God's unconditional love. Each sermon was a new opportunity for reflection, and Lucas began to feel as though he was breaking free from the chains of his past. Daniel always emphasized that forgiveness was not only a divine offer but also a choice each individual had to make about themselves. Lucas began to reflect on his own mistakes and the consequences they had brought, recognizing the pain he had caused others. During one of these meetings, Daniel asked everyone to close their eyes and pray for those who felt the need for forgiveness. Lucas felt a wave of emotion. He began to cry, remembering his former accomplices and the lives he had ruined. The weight of his guilt felt unbearable. He whispered a prayer asking not only for forgiveness but also for the courage to change. Deep in his heart, Lucas knew that this change would not be easy, but he was determined to try. As time passed, Lucas dedicated himself to working on his personal transformation. He began volunteering at an organization that helped at-risk youth, believing he could make a difference in the lives of others facing similar struggles. He shared his story, not to glorify himself, but to show that change was possible. Lucas realized that by helping others, he was also healing himself. One afternoon, while working on a community project, Lucas encountered an old acquaintance, Pedro, a former crime partner. Tension hung in the air, the past manifesting like a specter. Pedro looked at Lucas, his gaze filled with distrust and resentment. "You think you can change? We're not different, Lucas," he said, scornfully. Lucas felt the sting of those words but did not let them shake him. He replied calmly, "I am not who I was. I found a new purpose and want to make a difference." Pedro laughed, but something in his eyes changed. There was a glimpse of curiosity. Lucas decided not to give up. He invited Pedro to join one of Daniel's meetings. "Come and see for yourself. Forgiveness is real, and transformation is possible," he said, determined to show his friend that there was a different path. Pedro hesitated, but something within him was beginning to question his own choices. That night, Lucas was nervous as he waited for Pedro at the meeting. When Pedro arrived, he seemed skeptical, but he stayed to listen. Daniel, noticing Pedro's presence, spoke about how everyone has a past, but what's important is the future we can build. He emphasized that no one is beyond the reach of God's love. Daniel's words touched Pedro's heart in an unexpected way, and Lucas watched anxiously as his friend began to reflect. After the meeting, Pedro approached Lucas and, with tears in his eyes, said, "Maybe I can try too. If you can, I want to as well." Pedro's words filled Lucas with hope, and the bond between them strengthened. Both were determined to walk together on this journey of redemption. From that moment on, Lucas and Pedro's journey began to intertwine. They became friends and allies in the search for redemption, facing the challenges of their past together. They started working with at-risk youth, sharing their stories and showing that forgiveness and change were possible. Lucas realized that by helping others, he was also healing his own wounds, and with each young person they reached, his own faith grew stronger. However, the journey was not easy. Both faced challenges, including skeptical looks from those who did not believe they could truly change. The city, while starting to see small changes, was still skeptical about men like them. But Lucas and Pedro remained steadfast. Every young person they helped, every life they touched, brought them closer to their own healing. One night, while walking together after a meeting, Pedro said to Lucas, "Did you know I never thought I would have a friend like you? Someone who really cares." Lucas smiled, feeling the strength of the friendship they had built. He replied, "Forgiveness unites us in ways we can't imagine. It's a journey we must take together." They understood that mutual support was essential, and this friendship became a source of strength in their lives. Over time, the message of forgiveness and redemption began to spread throughout the community. More and more people joined Daniel's meetings, drawn by the hope that Lucas and Pedro brought. The city began to witness changes, small but significant. People started to support each other, believing they could rise again. Lucas and Pedro became symbols of hope, demonstrating that the past does not define the future. Finally, Lucas realized that his journey was not just about his own redemption but about transforming the lives of those around him. During a special service, Daniel asked everyone to share their stories. When it was Lucas's turn, he climbed to the pulpit, his heart racing. He spoke about his past, his struggles, and the beauty of the forgiveness he had found. Tears streamed down the faces of the listeners, many identifying with his story. At the end, Lucas said, "If I can be forgiven, if I can change, then everyone can. Forgiveness is a path, and we all have a chance to walk it." Applauded, he descended from the pulpit, feeling that he had finally found his place in the world. The acceptance and love of the community surrounded him, and Lucas felt that his past did not define him but rather his actions in the present. The journey of Lucas and Pedro continued to blossom. They were no longer just ex-criminals but messengers of hope and transformation. Together, they showed that unlimited forgiveness is a powerful force capable of changing hearts and lives, a story of love and redemption that would resonate for generations. With each new young person who came to them, they remembered that the struggle for a better future never ended, but every small step counted. And so, Lucas's story became a testimony to the transformative power of forgiveness, not only for him but for everyone who crossed his path. The journey of a sinner had become an example of faith, love, and the beauty of a new beginning. The legacy of Lucas and Pedro, founded on love and hope, spread, creating a network of support and transformation that echoed through the city, demonstrating that regardless of the past, there is always a way to the light.